Hi everyone, this is Steve Hargadon. Welcome to the Future of Education. It's Tuesday, March 31st, 2009. Our special guest tonight is Erin Reilly from the project New Media Literacies, which is at MIT. I'm going to give a brief overview of the environment that we're in. We're in Illuminate, which is an online meeting program, teaching and learning program. You are going to see different modules on your screen. The participant box is where you see the people who are logged in and participating. At the bottom of that participant box are some emoticons that you can use to express happiness or approval, clapping, confusion, or disapproval. You can also raise your hand, which is that hand with the green up arrow. And when we're in the Q&A portion of tonight, we'll ask you to raise your hands before we actually distribute the microphone. That way we don't have anybody accidentally playing with the mic while we're listening to Erin. Below that participant box is an audio box, and it's at the very bottom of your screen. And when you do get the microphone, you click on that audio button to turn the audio on, and then you click it again to turn your audio off. It's kind of like a single-click walkie-talkie. There's a chat window, and I like going up to View Layouts and selecting the wide layout in order to be able to see all of the chat. If you would like to send a private message to someone in the chat, you can. Whatever you type in that lower box, when you click send to this room, will go to everybody in the room. You're seeing some good chat taking place right now. If you want to, you can select, use that drop-down box to select to send a chat message to someone else. Just be aware that the moderators, Erin and I, will be able to see, we can actually see even those private chats. So Steve says he's having audio problems, how to adjust it. Would somebody mind typing in to the chat window just to have him go to Tools, Audio, and use the Audio Setup Wizard? Okay, so I think that's it. If you're having trouble with audio and you want to use the audio conference bridge as well, down by your microphone talk, you'll see a little telephone icon, and you can click on that and it gives you instructions for calling into here. So we are recording tonight. I'm going to give everybody permissions to actually update the whiteboard, and we're going to go to the map, and you'll see a little wand with a red dot at the end, the star at the end. If you click on that and then click on the map, you can indicate where you're listening from. It's also a lot of fun to put into the chat, what city you're in and what the weather is like. We're having some particularly tough weather this week in the States. Wow, what a great distribution. Okay, so I'm going to move us forward. I'd like to introduce Erin to you. Erin, let's have you click on your mic to make sure you're there.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Hello?
Now go ahead and click it off.
Okay.
Okay, so Erin is the research director for Project New Media Literacies. We're delighted to have her with us tonight. She's actually going to share, a presentation, and then take us to a website and talk about a conference they have coming up. So Erin, let's start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and then what you're currently doing.
Let me turn that on then. Let's see. My background is I've been in probably social media since it started. My background is as I'm the co-creator of Zoe's Room, which is an online learning community for middle school girls that creatively engages them in science, technology, engineering, and math. And we probably started that program. I used it as my MFA, my thesis project for my Master of Fine Arts, starting in '98. we were actually pitching it originally as a, surprisingly enough, it's so good I'm finally working with Henry Jenkins, because in '98 we were pitching a transmedia franchise for girls through the television networks. They thought, of course, we were crazy, so we turned to the web and started developing our community through a learning community, engaging them in STEM. And that started in about 2001, and it still exists today, with the New England region YWCA being our largest partner of incorporating it into their after-school programming, and actually also in some of their in-school programmings at a school such as like the Esperanza Academy in Lawrence, Massachusetts. But since then, I have now moved over to Project New Media Literacies here at MIT's Comparative Media Studies, and I'm the research director, so I work very closely with Henry Jenkins, who's the principal investigator of this work, to look at a new set of literacies called the New Media Literacies, which creatively engages children, all ages, in their learning. And I'm sure you'll hear a lot more about that project as we go on. Yes, Zoe's Room. Here, I'll give you the web address here. There you go. And then you have newmedialiteracies.org.
Erin, did you want to say anything more about Zoe's Room?
Oh, well, so I guess I could say a little bit more about Zoe's Room since we have it pulled up here. This started out in Maine. We were the first after-school program endorsed by past Governor Angus King on the Maine Learning Technology Initiative that really kind of utilized the laptops effectively in an after-school program. And we started with 16 schools throughout Maine, and from there we've actually opened it up to not just being an after-school program, but individual girls can sign up to participate. And I guess about a year ago, it was about 60% girls were participating through after-school programming and 40% through self-education, online, connecting by themselves. Zoe was originally, I must admit, was originally either me or Vinitha Nair, who's the co-creator. But we realized early on that we felt kind of bad that we were impersonating a 13-year-old. So now we've moved it to creating a Friends of Zoe program, where girls who created the program, who've kind of been mentored through the program through the Fab Females, which are role models who have careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. You can see right here on the news and highlights that who the new Fab Female is for March, Alinda Brown, a cinematographer. And we have a variety of Fab Females coming in by every other week throughout the month. They range from Google engineers to Microsoft women to women in finance to cinematographers. So even to projects, if any of you are addicted to Project Runway like I am, to Diana Ang, who was a Project Runway contestant who incorporated technology into her fashion. So we kind of go the gambit and really look at the edges of getting girls seeing how STEM is really integrated into all parts of life. So that's a little bit about Zoe's Room.
Erin, are you still pretty actively involved?
Yes, I'm actually a board member of Zoe's Room, and one way that I've tried tying my past work with the work that we're doing at newmedialiteracies.org is the tech track model, which was the learning model in Zoe's Room. That kind of was like this. We always started with a metaphorical story about Zoe and her girlfriends to break down complex terms in science, technology, engineering, and math. And then we went to an online activity where we were really addressing what Henry Jenkins calls the participation gap. We dealt with a lot of rural girls with not a lot of access, schools with not a lot of funding to be able to buy software applications or even have the capacity to download software. And so we pulled from the web and built a learning context around it. And then we always ended with an offline challenge. So the reason why I'm telling you about this tech track model is because by moving over to the new media literacies and leading the development of the learning library, which is our new application that we're developing in new media literacies to really kind of look at the question of, how are young people's learning environments changing as a result of digital media. This learning library is kind of building upon my past knowledge within the Zoe's Room program. And Zoe's Room is a partner in piloting the first collection within this learning library application. So I work really closely with the girls at the Esperanza Academy in Lawrence to test some of these challenges that I'll share with you tonight.
So for some reason, Erin, you're going to have to turn your mic off or people get the echo.
Okay.
For some reason, that New Media Literacy site is not coming up for me. Is it coming up for others? Just give us a smiley face if you're seeing the New Media Literacy site. So I'm wondering if we have the wrong address. Is anybody able to check looking on their regular web browser to see if for some reason the site might be down? Okay, it looks like some people are seeing it and some are not. I'm going to go ahead and, oh, there we go. It came up for me. Does it come up for others as well? Okay, I'm just going to put the link into the chat so you can go to the site on your own and make sure that if you're not seeing it in the web tour that you can see it on your own. So Erin, do you want to tell us a little bit about Project New Media Literacies? And you have to click your mic back on if you're talking and not coming through.
On that mic. Sorry about that. So Project New Media Literacies began in about 2005 when MacArthur Foundation was starting their digital media learning initiative and asked Henry to kind of like look out and see how kids are learning today. And so him and a couple of other people at NML released a white paper in 2006 called Confronting the Challenges of a Participatory Culture, Media Education in the 21st Century. And what that white paper did was it really outlined that we are immersed in a media-rich environment where we are creating in new ways, and we're connecting with one another through new networks. We're collaborating across communities where we're not just a local environment anymore, but we're moving into a global community. And we're circulating, that there are new tools that allow us to circulate from like tonight with these web seminars to blogging, to podcasting, to a variety of ways, to Twittering. So all of these have really kind of pushed us forward in identifying some characteristics of participatory culture, such as that there are low barriers. When you're thinking about participatory culture, there are low barriers for engagement. You want an easy point of entry for people to get together and to start learning from one another. And you need strong support for sharing creations with others. It started with, galleries on websites to now being able to distribute those to those creations through embedding video or images or text to all different sorts of sites. And informal mentorship, I think that this was one of the key things in Zoe's Room that we were really strong on, is that you need to create a sense of community where mentorship matters, where expertise is passed on from the expert to the novice, and so we can build upon each other. And, members want a space where their contribution matters. We've been doing some research in the field and watching kids, develop over 5 weeks their first Wikipedia page, and seeing kind of how the being part of a larger public than just kind of their own community means so much to them. And it shows that their material matters and that more people beyond who they know will see it. and it will help spread it. And that kind of moves us into the last characteristic, that we care about others' opinions of our work and of what we're saying. And so commenting and talking with each other and communicating kind of our ideas and reflecting upon it as a group is really important. So if you look back at the media literacy movement, you saw that we started with victimization, that media was bad for us. And that made us want us to be empowered. In the late 90s, I remember seeing the whole Girl Caught. I don't know if you remember this, but the Girl Caught with Abercrombie and Finch, and the girls became empowered to make a difference and to create new imagery for these T-shirts that were being sold at Abercrombie and Finch. But now what Henry Jenkins is writing about is that we've moved beyond just from victimization to empowerment to actually being producers ourselves of media, that we're no longer consumers, but we're producers. And with that, it's not just about our own individual expression, but it's about us being involved in a larger community. So that is new media. That's kind of the overarching of what new media literacies is. And this website, you can learn a little bit further by going to research and seeing the different research questions that we've outlined in the past year and are actually exploring in the field with 7 schools through our teacher strategy guide and with 3 after-school or 3 informal learning environments for the learning library. And if you click further on Learning Library or Strategy Guides, these kind of give you an overview of what the different resources are. So Steve, I'm starting to go into kind of some details, and if you want me to pull up this keynote presentation, I'd be happy to do that and give you kind of some more visuals. This thing.
So let's do that, Erin, because for some reason the site's having difficulty coming up for some of us in the web tour. So I'm going to close that down. And Erin, I want you to go ahead, and at the top of your window, you'll see a little hand underneath the screen, and that's the application sharing icon. And if you click on that, you'll be able to pick your keynote and share it. So we have a couple of hands that are raised. I don't know if that's by accident or if you actually wanted to ask a question. Go ahead and ask your question in the chat, if you would, for now, while Erin gets set up. And then, Erin, you can decide if you want to start Q&A now or if you want to wait until the end. And I did turn your mic off again, Erin, for the echo. So if you are saying something, we're not hearing it.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Where did you say the hand was?
Up at the top of your screen. It's about the ninth icon over.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Can y'all see my slide now? Yes, you got it? Okay, so y'all are on my... So, okay, so I'll go through this. So these are the 5 characteristics of participatory culture that I just actually outlined that were really highlighted in the white paper. And I always like to tell a story. I always seem to use Jessica, maybe it's because I've worked with girls for so long, to really kind of give you an overview. I always find it best to tell stories in order to really get across, like, well, how are kids participating today? And I'm sure there's all of you are educators, so you're surrounded by teens and young youth all day. So maybe you probably know of Jessica. This will be familiar to you. But here Jessica is, on her computer, and while she's, multitasking, maybe she's making a mashup of her history and a project for tomorrow. She gets a text message from her friend, who shares with her this link of Soulja Boy. Now, some of you might be giggling because you might have actually been inundated with this song in school last year. Now, what I find really unique about Soulja Boy is that, you know, we've all seen hundreds of music videos on YouTube, but this was a very ambitious 15-year-old who did not want to wait around for the music industry to pick him up and get a license and everything. So not only did he and his friends make a music video of his song, and a very catchy song at that, but he also developed dance lessons for Jessica and her friends to learn it.
First step, right there. So everybody hit that with me. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, Erin, this is Steve. Can we pause for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so go ahead and turn your mic off just for a moment. People are hearing it after when I talk when I put your mic. So, for some reason, when Keynote is coming up, I turned my own mic off. So, for some reason, when Keynote's coming up in the actual slides, it's only showing us a portion of the slide. We have a couple of options here. One is, it looks like even when you're in the slide sharing view where you can see all the different slides on the left-hand side, it still cuts off on the right-hand side. Does Keynote have an ability to export to PowerPoint? If you want to export that to PowerPoint, we can actually put it into the whiteboard. Of course, you lose the multimedia piece of it. Or just go ahead and keep it like it is and go through the slides this way, if that's okay, instead of going into actual slide view.
Hey, I'm Steve. I put on my mic, so I just wanted to let you know, I think I do have it as a PDF. Let me just look for it really quick and see if I can do that.
So, Erin, once you have the PDF up on your screen, we'll click off the remote desktop sharing, then click it back on again and select the PDF. Heard you just shortly.
Do you see it?
I don't see it yet. So we're going to click off desktop sharing. Click on desktop sharing again and pick the PDF.
Okay. Okay, now do you see it?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize, everyone, for these technical difficulties. Let me see if I can go forward on this. So I was telling the Jessica story. Everyone with me and want me to continue?
Yeah, it's great. And you may actually want to reduce the size just a little.
Okay. See. How's that? Oh, now that left side is cut off?
I'm actually seeing it fine.
Oh, okay. Great. Okay, so let's see. See, now I'm going to have to sing the song for you. Too bad we don't have the webcam on. I could do the dance for you. I actually got my 68-year-old mother to learn this dance, and you'll see why, because just like Jessica and her friends, they actually got together and they downloaded and learned these lessons. And together, made a video. And if you saw these girls together, they didn't just actually do the step-by-step recreation of what Soulja Boy had put in the lesson, but like many people today who are creating and pulling things from the web, is they actually use the new media literacy appropriation, which is how to meaningfully sample and remix content to make it your own. So I wish that you had seen this video. I'll try getting it somewhere on the web for you, because they do this awesome super fly move where one of the girls jumps and all the other arms. So at least that kind of gives you an idea of how much fun these recreations are. And if you go to YouTube, you can actually search Soulja Boy and see all the different ways that not only Jessica and her friends, but everyone participated in this Soulja Boy phenomenon. So when they were done shooting their video, Jessica goes to her MySpace page, loads it, and not only puts it on her MySpace page, but by tagging it appropriately, it connects to Soulja Boy and all the other videos with Soulja Boy, so that this phenomenon continues to grow through the community's participation. And here, if you see this, everyone's doing it. You would have seen my 68-year-old mother, but of course the video's not working. But you would not only just see her, you would see the football team, to Dora the Explorer, to 5-year-old little kids playing with it, to even my MIT grad students out on the courtyard trying their own moves. And we're geeks, so we dance really well. So yes, like Peggy G says, it's definitely multi-generational. And that's what, so that really is kind of an example of what is today's participatory culture, and how not only youth, but how we're all kind of in one way or another really engaging in this media-rich culture. And so on the white paper, so in the past 3 years, I love this, we are all one through Soulja Boy, that's right. So in the past 3 years, we have been funded by MacArthur Foundation's Digital Media and Learning Initiative to really address, how are young people's learning environments changing as a result of digital media. And we've developed, 3 different resources to really kind of see how that we're not just consumers of media anymore, but we're active participants, that we're moving from individual expression to community involvement, that we build upon literacies that already existed. It's not that we're asking everything that came before us to disappear, but we're building upon that knowledge. So it's just as important to know how to read and write as it is these new media literacies. I mean, I think you need to read and write in order to do new media literacies. But what we're saying is that the new media literacies really identifies new mindsets that kids are participating in away from, outside of school, and how can we actually get these new mindsets in school? And there's and mindsets is like one of the new media literacies is collective intelligence. How do we pull our knowledge together towards a common goal? It's a new mindset. I see in elementary kids, where it's just a much more collaborative environment, very playful. They do a lot of that. They do a lot of collaborating. As we get them older and older and start focusing on tests, they lose their sense of play. They lose their sense of collaboratively working together. And I can actually give you a specific example of this week being out in the field, where I was doing some work with the Esperanza Academy on the new media literacy play, which how we define play is to experiment with your surroundings in a form of problem solving. And kids, the girls could actually really say, hey, play, I play by playing basketball, I play when I go outside. But they couldn't see how a science experiment, or how learning about objects in motion, or how about playing an online game was this definition that was our definition of play, experimenting, problem solving. That can be playful. So I just walked away going, wow, when did we kick it out of them? When did they forget to realize that learning is so playful and learning is so much fun? Exactly, like No Clue says. When did play become a 4-letter word? Just drives me crazy. So 5th grade, I know. So here's what I said about, that we're building upon traditional media literacy, that we do think that it's still important to critically, to know about how to critically analyze the media that we consume. That digital literacy is another thing, that it's still important to know the tools and techniques, but this new media literacy builds upon it. And I think that skills like negotiation, skills like play, skills like networking work in not only the digital world, but also work in the offline world. That this is a blended learning experience, and that the new media literacies can play, here's that word again, can actually play across these different contexts. It's that the tools kind of accelerate that process to circulating and creating and connecting and collaborating in a social environment, in a social community. So when I work with teachers, or even when we were internally in Project New Media Literacies designing the new application, the Learning Library, we really kind of asked ourselves these 4 forms of participatory culture. How do we circulate material, and how do we design that into this application? How do we create? How do we connect, and how are we actually going to incorporate ways for participants, whether an adult or a child, can connect with one another? And are there ways to collaborate so that we can build upon each other's knowledge? That's another thing that I see within things that are being put in schools is I understand everyone wants to brand, this is my school, this is our information, we need to share it. But how can we start sharing across schools? How can we actually start opening up our content so that instead of reinventing the wheel, we can start appropriating from each other in a positive way? We can appropriate and start creating new things based on our certain context. So these are the new media literacies that were identified in the white paper, and I wanted to show you that we actually, it's not there, but we actually added in this past year a 12th new media literacy called visualization. And so it kind of shows you that these social skills and cultural competencies are evolve, and that it's not kind of like this is it, this is the list, and this is all that we're going with, but that we're adapting with the culture that we live in as well. So if we went back and looked at Jessica and her friends, we can actually see that in their, on their own, in the cultures and the communities that they're participating in for fun and for play, they are using the skill appropriation. They have the ability to meaningfully sample and remix media content and make it their own. And by connecting, by tagging, by knowing how to tag and tagging her information with her YouTube video, she was able to pool her knowledge and compare others towards this Soldier Boy phenomenon and really be part of that movement. She also had to know the new media literacy networking, which is the ability to search for, synthesize, and disseminate information. Her friend, from texting her from the beginning, actually knew how to search for something and synthesized it by sharing it with her friends. And then together, her and her friends that were wanting to be a part of this and make their own video, they knew by loading it to their own profile and disseminating it to the larger community was actually sharing a part of networking. So our work in the past 3 years is, well, how do we integrate these new media literacies across curricula? And when we think about learning in a participatory culture, we've identified these 4 ways to help bring participatory culture both in the classroom, whether it's an after-school program, whether it's inside an English language arts classroom, or even with a parent and a child working together. So the exemplars is one thing that I can share a link with you to. Let me just grab it really quick. It's and luckily this will we go. Let me give it to you. So this link right here shows exemplars. It's over 85 videos in our video collection which exemplify the new media literacies through media makers. And this is again not an exhaustive video. We only have so much time in the day to edit videos, and we have still a lot more raw footage to go through. But you can actually start seeing a lot of the videos that really kind of were, you know, from DJ artists to the graffiti artists to animators, and how they actually are using these skills in their own practice. The other thing is though we started with a video collection, we realized early on that we needed to not just create videos for, again, people to consume, but we really needed to think of exemplars where people could actually use those 4 C's to be able to create and to collaborate. And with videos, you know, you're consuming the video. So we started doing even a further review of web communities and games and sites that you could participate in that actually exemplify the new media literacies. And these turned into exercises where you could actually explore and practice these skills in action. Now, expressions is where we kind of provided a your turn. You know, we felt that only to an extent would people would still be kind of consumers if we only provided with them videos to kind of exemplify the skill and sites and games for them to practice the skill in action. But, you know, to really get to the characteristics of participatory culture, we needed to tie it back so that the participants that were using our material could create their own media content. And so in a lot of the material you'll see, we ask you to kind of put it in your own context, or find your own, you know, make your own video, or find your own site or your own game, and try relating that skill into a new space. And with the ethics, you know, the more you're immersed in these social cultures, social communities, the more that you actually might come across ethical dilemmas. I mean, we saw it firsthand within Zoe's room that, you know, we were, as adults, we were more worried about internet safety. And when it really came down to it, the biggest concern that we saw over and over again was cyberbullying, and we addressed that head on by having girls really start mentoring each other on how to actually create the norms of their community and to develop guidelines amongst themselves that they would all follow. So I want to make sure I'm seeing y'all's questions. There you go. Where will the archive be located? Oh, right. You're talking about this. Okay, so what I want to share with you now is these 3 different resources. And I'm going to skip over the Learning Library because y'all are very lucky tonight. At our May 2nd conference, we're actually going to be releasing our Learning Library, which actually will not only include all the videos that I just shared with you on that link, but it will put those videos in a learning context by having, because we've actually created 30 Learning Library challenges called our first collection called the Media Maker Collection, which really is a user-generated and participatory model to get people exploring, practicing, and trying out these skills in their own context. So I will share that with you as soon as I go through the other 2 things we've been working on. So I wish I could jump through this. So let me go through this really quick. Okay, so let me start then with the teacher strategy guides. So besides the Learning Library, the teacher strategy guides was our approach to really kind of zero in on a specific subject area and see how we could integrate the new media literacies into a certain discipline. You know, we really wanted to build upon knowing the history of the media literacy movement. And if you look back, you'll see that a lot of media literacy lessons were taught in after-school programming, or as an aside or an elective. If we have time, we'll actually get to thinking about media literacy. But now we're really in an area, we're really in a society where media is everywhere. We're immersed in media. It's not only giving us new tools, but it's also giving us new institutions like YouTube or Facebook or Flickr. And so to do that, we really wanted to start seeing how the new media literacies could be applied across classroom subjects. And the first one we did, we finished developing it last year, and it's actually being tested currently in 7 schools, mostly in the Northeast area, and it's called Reading in a Participatory Culture. It applies appropriation, the new media literacy appropriation, to the English language arts class. Now, remember, I think I said earlier, the appropriation, the skill means that the skill is defined as the ability to meaningfully sample and remix content to make it your own. And this guide actually exemplifies 2 things. We've taken the book, it's geared to high school, and we've taken this book on Moby Dick, Herman Melville, Moby Dick. How many of you love Moby Dick? Woo, woo! Can I have a woo, woo? No, I'm just joking. But we took Moby Dick, who Melville was a remixer in the 19th century. He actually remixed Milton and the Bible, mapping, cetology. He combined it all together to talk about the book Moby Dick. And we worked closely with Ricardo Pitts-Wiley, who's a theater director in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, at the Mixed Magic Theater. And he actually had worked with incarcerated youth he really wanted them to get to read Melville, to read Moby Dick. And so we worked with them to remix Melville to a story, to a play. And that play was performed where they took the idea of the white whale, and the white whale was of the cocaine industry, and the one, which is used in Melville's Moby Dick, was actually the gang that was trying to go after the white whale. So those lessons were incorporated into 4 different units. Looking across appropriation, looking at negotiation, another new media literacy. And it identified 4 experts, Henry Jenkins as a media scholar, Wynne Kelly as a Melville scholar, Ricardo Pitts-Wiley as the theater director who incorporated Moby Dick Then and Now, and also Rudy Cabrera, who was an actor in the performance and really gets to actually saying that how by performing this theater performance, by really being a part of this engaging activities that Ricardo put him through, he actually learned to read in a new way. Now we're also working with Harvard's Good Play, with Howard Gardner at Harvard's Good Play project. And they have identified in this white paper here on this link, they've identified 5 ethical categories: identity, privacy, ownership, authorship, credibility, participation, to develop a casebook. So they've identified these ethics, and we're working with them on developing lessons that integrates the new media literacies and aligns with all 5 of these ethical categories. And that should be released sometime this year. And then there's the learning library, which I'll get to. So that's the end of my presentation. I think it was a little bit long, but do any of you have any questions?
Okay, so we've got about 15 minutes left. I'm going to turn your mic off just for a second. There, you did too. We've got about 15 minutes left. If you wanted to show learning libraries, then people could start queuing up questions. If you'd like to ask Erin a question, please feel free to raise your hand using the icon with the hand and the green up arrow while Erin's queuing up. And if you would like, we'll give you the mic. And so, Catnip, I'm giving you the mic. And you then press the audio microphone button in order to be able to start speaking. So go ahead, Catnip. So we're not hearing anything. If you haven't run the Tools Audio Setup Wizard to test your mic, you may not be able to ask a question just because your mic won't be configured correctly. So if there's anybody else, go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll give Catnip a chance to figure that out. And Erin, you're certainly welcome to start if you'd like. There's another hand, though.
one here, I see here one with Emily about did you bring regular teachers into the process and do you have a process for training them? Yes, we definitely did. Last summer we did a teacher training with those 7 schools and we brought them in and we actually said to them that we didn't want to kind of prescribe the new media literacies, and we didn't want to actually just give them a guide and say, please run with this. But we asked them to be co-researchers in the process. And a group of researchers here at NML, Jenna McWilliams, Katie Clinton, Hillary Colas, have been working very closely with all 7 schools, where not only have we gone out and observed, but like we've been working with Wareham High School here in Massachusetts to really kind of do some work where we try it out and then we tweak it and do it again. Very much design-based research. You know, try something, if it doesn't work, let's try it again with your kids in a new way. And they will be at the conference on May 2nd, and we'll be able to, there'll be a whole round-robin table to talk with the teachers about the process they went through and the training that they feel is needed in order to really incorporate the new media literacies into an English language arts classroom. We also have developed, and you'll see it in the Threshold magazine, where we're going to be we're the partner for Cable in a Classroom's Threshold magazine this coming spring issue, which I think is released April 22nd. And you'll see that Lana Swartz and Nick have actually developed an idea called the Think Tank Day. And we started this with our new guide we're developing called Mapping in a Participatory Culture, where we brought together not only teachers, but geography, media makers, professionals, all together working through developing what is mapping in today's learning environment. And I will share with you, let me just share with you really quick. If you want to look at kind of the process that we've gone through on that, you can go to tumblr.com. You can actually see, now realize this is debris, okay, that this is everything and anything, and we're synthesizing it now into an actual guide, but you can see some of the work that we've been doing on mapping at that pitch. Okay. Oh, what about copyright? Should I answer that question?
Go ahead, and then we've got two questions queued up.
Okay. About copyright, Anna Van Summeren has been working with Melanie Defournay DeLong, who actually was the one who started Creative Commons in France, and she was a Berkman Fellow last year. Anna is our creative manager, and together they've been working on developing an attribution tool that will be embedded within the Learning Library, and I can show a little bit about that now. I agree with you. I think that everyone needs to learn more about copyright, fair use, public domain, Creative Commons, and the only way to do that is to start creating it effectively into designs. So that's one thing we've really kind of tackled, and there'll be a blog out in the next couple of weeks that Anna's working on right now around attribution. Next question.
Okay, I'm going to give the mic to D. Title.
Mike, I got a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I found really good editing. About a minute's worth of good video is about an hour's worth of editing. How do you deal with that?
Erin, you're going to have to turn your mic back on because I turned it off for the echo.
So did you say how do I deal with an hour's worth of editing?
But I think that's what he asked. I took his mic away once you started, Erin.
Well, I must admit, you know, I would say half of the NML researchers have backgrounds in media, in some sort of media. And Anna Van Summeren, who's our creative manager, she was an editor for years and years before she came to work on NML. And so between her and Talia and a couple others, you know, they really synthesized through all that video to tell a really good story. I do think that you know it's something that you have to continue practicing with. and it's about, I find the best way to do it is that instead of being immersed so much in the video, the best way I find to kind of cut it down to a minute is to start with your abstract, to start on paper and storyboard kind of what you're looking for before you actually get to the edit.
Okay, and now I'm going to give the mic to Chris one.
There, can you hear me okay?
Yeah?
Yeah, I was just wondering, do you feel that the whole educational aspect of this process is lost or more difficult for any particular group of students?
And Erin, to answer, you're going to have to turn your mic back on again.
That's a really good question. I actually think that it's the older students that it's harder to get through because they've been indoctrinated by the formal learning environment that we currently have that's actually built on the industrial age and really kind of pushing them towards testing. And like, for example, when I was in observing one class this past year, you know, the seniors who were in the AP class were so more concerned about, you know, how does this relate to the test that I need to take in 2 weeks? Okay, I'll do this just to kind of to be amenable to you and your needs, but I don't really see how this is really helping me in my classwork, you know, that will get me into college. I find that the younger kids, you know, are much more easier and faster and willing to learn. My 5-year-old is all over media, you know, and I think that they definitely get it. I'm worried.
Erin?
I'm actually worried.
So there are two questions that have been asked a couple of times in the chat, and I want to just point them out to you. One, I'm going to turn your mic off. I'm going to figure that out. So one is Jan Smith, and she says, can I ask you to talk about the research specifically on learner engagement in new media, blogging, and growth academically and socially? And then the second one being asked the second time are Ryan Bretag's questions. How do you feel we need to approach professional development in schools in order to systematically bring about this type of shift in the classroom? And there is, and in many ways there has been, a long debate about the definition of literacy. What is your definition of literacy? So those were three questions. I don't know if you could get them, but the first one was from Jan about research. And if you're talking, Erin, you turn your mic back on.
So for the research question, I would really have to pump the Digital Media and Learning Initiative that MacArthur Foundation has funded. They put $50 million towards doing research on this, and I know that Mimi Ito and her group has just put out an incredible report on an ethnographic study, you know, and not only that, but it's quantitative and qualitative research on how youth are participating in digital media. And they really have actually found, you know, they kind of identified 3 ways that kids are hanging out, messing around, and geeking out. And really each kind of walks you through the process of the different learning nuances that are happening in each of those. So I really encourage you to read that. As far as the research that's coming out of ours, you know, each one is finding a little bit different things. You know, one of the things is that we're finding is that it's very difficult. We're all about popular culture and really kind of starting where kids' real-world experiences are. And we find that integrating popular culture needs certain strategies, needs certain new ways and participation structures in the classroom to be defined. And that it's not just about, you know, content, but really it's about, you know, kind of what are the affordances of these different new characteristics, and how do you effectively integrate it without squashing it based on kind of the practices that teachers have learned to date. So, you know, some key things that we're starting to see is, you know, how do you actually develop a collaborative knowledge building? How do you work students, depending on their age and where they are in learning, towards different degrees of publicness? You know, what are the affordances of community, and how do you actually incorporate them into your classroom, even if you aren't on, say, a social network? And from the Learning Library, a few things is that the collection of the Learning Library, it's being used for inspiration. It's being integrated into a blending learning environment where they're taking these challenges and then building other things around it. It's being adapted where they might take one or two things from one of our challenges and adapt it or, say, appropriate it for their own learning context. And then we're also seeing, because this is a publishable tool where people can publish their own challenges, that groups are getting together and creating their own collections. So that was the research. Then the other question was, can you remind me again what that was, Steve?
I can. I'll go back and find it. It was from Ryan Breitag, and I'm looking for it here. How do you feel we need to approach professional development in schools in order to systematically bring about this type of shift? And there is, and in many ways there has been, a long debate about the definition of literacy. What is your definition of literacy?
So, we've actually received an additional grant from MacArthur to look at professional development models. And that think tank day is one of our approaches that we're getting at. That it's about bringing together, developing collective intelligence by bringing together different roles, different people with different expertise to the table when developing something. So instead of, say, the science department only looking within, how can we actually be interdisciplinary and work across? And so that idea of kind of creating an unconference-conference model in the school where it becomes a more emerging from a group working together is one of the models. The other thing is how the train the trainer is, we go in and train, and then, what happens with professional development is that, everyone's excited at that moment. The trainer goes away, and it never happens again. Just like, someone just said, ugh, train the trainer. So really it's about, is there a way through these social communities, social networking communities, to build professional development effectively? And I think it has. I mean, look at Classroom 2.0. It's brought 16,000 people together. People are starting to create communities in an asynchronous way. One of the things that I hope that the Learning Library will do to continue building upon professional development is that we'll start not just seeing lesson plans, as is, we can always download a lesson plan, but to really see how different teachers remix a certain content to make it their own, and everything connected and tagged together will start giving new teachers, oh, that's how I do it. That's how I don't just take a lesson plan and do it, download it and do it as is. I can remix it, and it gives maybe older teachers a fresh perspective. And
so
as
Erin,
far as
go ahead.
Yeah? Go ahead. I was going to ask, you want me to answer the last question about literacy?
Well, so we're actually at the hour mark. So let's do this. I'm going to turn your mic off again so I'm not echoing. I think it would be great to have you answer the literacy question. I'm going to put up the link for the Future of Education event survey for people to respond as to how they felt tonight went. We want to express our appreciation to both Illuminate and to KnowledgeWorks. KnowledgeWorks has been the sponsor of this Future of Education series, and Illuminate has provided the platform, so we're really appreciative of that. Erin, I'll give my thanks to you in a moment, but go ahead and answer the literacy question, and then I'm going to suggest that we actually move the question and answer to the forum thread in Future of Education. If you would like to ask Erin questions, you can do so there, and then I'll kind of prompt Erin to go look at that and to reply back. So Erin, go ahead and answer the question, and I'll put the link to the survey up.
So we actually see the new media literacies as offering new ways of thinking. I think I started with, these are new mindsets. Collective intelligence is an example of a new mindset where we're pooling our knowledge together. But it also is a new ways of doing things. For example, transmedia navigation, where we actually go across media to find or tell a story or search or synthesize for something, is a new way of doing a practice. and it recruits the traditional literacies of reading and writing into new kinds of literacy practices. So we're building upon the literacies that came before us. And one of the people that we actually referred to in our white paper is the New London Group. And they actually, they say that, they argue that literacy pedagogy now must account for the burgeoning variety of text forms associated with information and multimedia technologies. That they go on and they prescribe that, they describe, that it's the proliferation of communication, that we're in a media-rich culture, and this creates a need for creating the learning conditions for social participation. So literacy, to me, is not about individual expression anymore, about individual learning. It's about a social movement, a social learning, and connecting with one another.
Okay, let's give Erin a big round of applause using the clapping hand. Erin, I turned your mic off again. Thank you so much for being here, Erin. You did a great job. I'm going to encourage people to continue the dialogue on the Future of Education website in that forum discussion. Thanks to KnowledgeWorks, thanks to Illuminate, and thanks to you for spending an hour with us tonight talking about the future of education. We'll let the chat keep going for a little while, and then we've got to kick everybody out so that the recording can go. And Erin, I'll let you say your goodbyes now. And Erin, if you want to take the mic back, please feel free to.
Okay. So I just wanted to say thank you all for participating in today, and don't forget about May 2nd conference, which you can actually find more about it on the newmedialiteracies.org website. And registration is affordable. It's only $35 for a full day of conversations and activities. Yes, email me if you need a scholarship. And that's all, folks. Thanks, Steve.
Great job, Erin. Erin, I've turned your mic off again, just because we can hear, and you're certainly welcome to turn it back on. Is there a link specifically to the conference we can put in here so it gets captured in the chat as well? Thanks again, everyone. Terrific session. Thanks to Erin. Thanks to KnowledgeWorks. Thanks to you for coming. Okay, so if you're still in the room, here's how it works. Everybody has to exit the room in order for the recording to process. So in about 30 seconds, I'm actually going to kick everybody out. Sorry to do that to you, but it's a way to make sure that the recording goes. And I have to quickly get myself to the airport, so I can't spend too much time hanging around. So I apologize for that. Good night, Erin. Great job again.
Just reading the chat. I'll go.